welcome one and all to the 2023 Olympic Esports Series Motorsport event with Gran Turismo here live in Singapore. My name's Julia Hardy and I'm joined by Jimmy Broadbent and Tom Brooks, who are going to be on the desk with you today. It has been some fierce competition to get to this point, to sit in one of these coveted spots on this huge Olympic stage. Guys, talk us through the comp format. What's happening?
Yeah, you can see that we've got 12 players who are going to be competing here this afternoon, and there's one qualifying lap, sort of super pole session, if you will. One opportunity to get yourself as high up the grid as you can for the 42-lap race. One pit stop is required. Minimum of 2 types of tyres, though, so you can go hard, medium, hard, soft, soft, hard, whatever you want to choose. And, of course, there can only be one winner for the Olympic Esports Series in 2023, and we'll find that out in about 45 minutes' time.
Oh, yeah. Talk us through the drivers then.
Yeah, here are the players then that are going to be competing. So Kylian Drummond, Adriano Carrazza from Brazil, Jose Serrano from Spain. Then you've got the Italian Giorgio Mangano, Kaj de Bruyne from the Netherlands, and Will Murdoch from Great Britain. He reckons he can actually bring the fight to the front, but he was only 6th quickest after qualifying yesterday. Then there's the Lebanese driver Carl Etemezian ahead of the Hungarian Benjamin Hengse, Yusuke Goto from Japan, Angel Inostroza from Chile, always happy, always smiling. He was quicker than Inigo Anton from the Philippines, and Al Mohammed Ali, the local Singapore driver here this weekend.
Yes, look at this. It's all about to start. I'm very excited. Let's bring on the players.
Let's welcome the players. Let's bring them on. From France, Kylian Drummond. From Brazil, Adriano Carrazza. Let's bring them on. From Spain, Jose Serrano. Let's bring them on. From Italy, Giorgio Mangano. From Netherlands, Kaj de Bruyne. Let's bring them on. From Great Britain, Will Murdoch. Let's bring them on. From Lebanon, Carl Etemezian. From Hungary, Benjamin Hengse. From Japan, Goto Yusuke. Let's bring them on. From Chile, Angel Inostroza. From the Philippines, Inigo Anton. From Singapore, Al Mohammed Ali. Let's bring them on. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up one more time for your players.
We've been ready for a good time. Let your head down, baby. Let's go to the background, go and sit down.
12 players then ready to take to the stage as we aim for qualifying ahead of the Olympic Esports Series 2023 final for the motorsport event. It's a one-lap shootout. These are the cars that are going to be competing in here, Jimmy. The Toyota GR010 Hybrid.
Yeah, lots of power, lots of downforce, and four-wheel drive out the corners as well. So an awesome car for our drivers to try and get their heads around here, but challenging as well. We all know these guys like the faster cars here in Gran Turismo 7, so I'm sure we'll see that represented here. Here's our circuit, Deep Forest Raceway, an original circuit from Gran Turismo. Been around for a very long time and very popular with our drivers too.
Yeah, 42 laps for the drivers. 6 times tyre wear is going to be an interesting one as well, because as we know, strategy is going to be hugely important. So very good overtaking opportunities, especially down the end of that back straight into turn 14.
Yeah, big sends into there, mate. That's what we're going to see. Our drivers there just getting ready on the stage. What an audience we have here live in Singapore. Great to have a live audience here, of course, for this event for the Olympic Esports Series. And massive cheer there for Mohammed Alif at the end there. Great to see that.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, the atmosphere, you could cut the tension with a knife, couldn't you, down here? It is unbelievable how excited everybody is for this, and we are really looking forward to seeing what is going to happen. Qualifying will be along the way very, very shortly. A one-lap shootout, just to remind you as well. Only one bite at the cherry, so if you do make a mistake, that could mean you're starting a lot further down the order than you anticipated. Yeah,
a lot of pressure there. It's tricky to get out there and put that lap together straight away. And as we've said, with this pressure of this live audience here as well, all the cameras, all the lights, all the music, it can be off-putting, but that's where we'll see, you know, our top drivers. They can sort of just get rid of that from their brain. They can go, right, okay, focus just on the driving. And that's where we're going to see, I think, the fast guys really show themselves.
Metronomic precision from some of these competitors as well. I was watching them in the qualifying arena yesterday and just watching them set their lap times, and they were unbelievably consistent over the course of that. But that doesn't really matter over the course of one lap, because you need to be able to get in, get a banker, and get yourself as high up the order as you can.
Yeah, of course, qualifying is only one part of this race as well. Of course, we have the actual race itself. I think 41 laps, 42 laps, to say. Very long races, a lot of strategy involved as well. I think one of the only esports here at the Olympic Esports Series that actually has that strategy element involved as well. It's not enough to just be quick. You have to be good at thinking about it as well.
Just looking briefly at Carl Etemezian, the Lebanese driver, as we cross over to the other players as they sit on the stage ready in anticipation for the qualifying session to begin. This is going to be, as we said, hugely exciting and a lot of pressure for the players here as we get ready to go. I tell you what, this is just unbelievable how much pressure these players are under, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And what a stage we have here. A beautiful stage here we have here at the Suntec City Centre here, and great to have Gran Turismo Cinema. Qualifying now, getting underway. The first of our drivers going out onto circuit is, of course, the home hero here, Mohammed Alif, who goes out the pit lane to a big round of applause here from the live crowd. A bit of a wild card, so we're not really sure what to expect from here in terms of pace. He could be someone who's an upset. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. We haven't really seen much of him so far this weekend, mainly because we didn't see him qualify. He had an automatic wildcard spot into the Olympic Esports Series finals for the motorsport event, so we haven't really seen what his pace representative to everybody else is going to be like. So this is going to be the first opportunity for him, but I have to say, just from a characteristic point of view, what an absolutely lovely chap he is. We were down chatting to him yesterday. Very hospitable, very welcoming, very friendly, and really made you feel at home here in Singapore.
Yeah, as has everyone here so far. I think one of the friendliest places I've been to is Singapore. A great place to be, and Julie and I actually walked around yesterday, explored a bit of the culture. Amazing place. But I'm sure Mohammed Alif is probably not thinking about any of that right now. I'm thinking about trying to get his car on the circuit as quick as possible.
So as Alif here warms up his tyres and his brakes ready for his one and only flying lap, what are the key points in this circuit that you need to look out for?
I think a lot of it's going to be corner exit. We saw it earlier with the qualifying comparison, especially that last corner there. Because if you make a mistake coming out of his hairpin, I say it a lot, but it's a point that he's proving. You'll lose time all the way down to T1, and bear in mind that's about 15 seconds of full throttle, and you'll just lose time down there. So getting the braking zones now is important. We go down into the first corner now, harden the brakes, a little bit wide of the apex there for Alif, but a good exit up the hill, and you can see there the inputs the driver's making on the right hand side of the screen. The steering wheel, of course, and the throttle pedal currently matted. Nice and easy through here. It's a very tricky technical section, the first part of the course here at Deep Forest Raceway, so it's very important to get that right and just get a nice rhythm through there. If you get one corner wrong through that first part, you tend to get them all wrong.
Yeah, through the tunnel into the left-hander, then this is sort of in the middle section of the lap. You're going to flick it right briefly, then into the left, and then there's just one more corner before you're on that long back straight, and this is where you need to really focus on the exit of the turn. Through the left-hander, nice and easy on the power, don't spin the wheels up too much. Pretty smooth there from Mohamed Alif as he comes through the tunnel, and now it's just a case of sitting on the throttle and waiting to find your braking point.
Yeah, so you'll be looking at the markers on the right-hand side of the circuit and try and pick out where he thinks it's best to slam on the anchors. He thinks it's about there, down through the gears now. Now, where is he on the apex? Nice and neat and tidy there, using all of the curb on the exit. You can't run too wide there or you will get a cut track penalty, but a nice tidy that there from Alif. Let's see what sort of time he can put down.
Yep, so through the left-hander kink, the final corner technically on this circuit as he comes to the timing line. 1:14, 1:15 is what the drivers were setting here yesterday as he comes across the lines on 1:15.4. That's actually a really competitive lap time, because if you look at the times yesterday, Adriano Carrazza was a 15.4 as well, so very impressive from him. What about this man from the Philippines, Inigo Anton then? He was the second slowest driver in the qualifying session that we had here yesterday. Can he improve on the time that he set, which was a 15.7? He comes to the line, it's a 15.3. Pace is definitely up here in this single lap session.
Yeah, definitely think everyone now a little bit of pressure. Angel Enestrosa currently nearly 4 tenths up on everyone at the moment. We know Angel's a decent qualifier. He said he sort of messed up his lap yesterday, so I imagine it's going to be fairly quick. This might even be a 14 here from Angel Enestrosa. Comes across the start-finish line. It's a 14.7 there. Big lap time there from Angel Enestrosa. A little smile on his face there, but then I think back to business straight away for Angel.
6 tenths of a second to the good then of Inigo Anton is Angel Enestrosa. Very impressive time from him so far. What about Yusuke Goto then? He is coming across the line to start his first attack lap as he comes down in towards the first corner. Here is the Japanese driver. You can see him on the right-hand side of your picture there. The face of concentration as he just tries to nail every apex and every exit of the corner through this first sector. The long, winding, sweeping bends through here. Couple of bites of the cherry there as he just runs it a little bit wide. That's going to cost him a bit of time.
Just a bit too fast through there. Picked up a little bit of understeer through the midsection. You can see already 3.5 tenths down on Angel Enestrosa. Easy to do there. You know, there's a lot on the line here. You're pushing hard, and a small mistake like that through that first section, as we said earlier, can be brutal for your lap time. But now coming on to the back straight here. It's not really a straight though, is it? it's like a half straight.
Well, at least you keep your foot pinned to the floor. Yeah. But the thing is, though, he's got to now really try and pull something out of the bag in the second and third sector, but crucially, not overdrive the car as well. It's really easy to push yourself beyond the limit, and then before you know it, you're sliding around like a dog on a polished floor, not getting the power down, and it's costing you even more time than you were trying to gain.
Yeah, so now nice and neat and tidy out of the hairpin, as everyone has been so far, but I don't think it's going to be a good time here for Godo. It wasn't a nice start to that, and unfortunately he's carried that all the way through. I imagine he'll be probably somewhere in the mid-15s, comes across the start-finish line now to break the beam, and the time is a 15.3, so goes third fastest provisionally for now.
So not a bad lap time there from Goto then. Let's see what about Benjamin Henksay then. So he is on his flying lap and he's coming to the timing line. What is the Hungarian driver going to be able to do as he flicks it through the left-hander, breaks the beam? And the Hungarian is about to set his representative lap time. Not a bad couple of sectors there for him, but he's lost a little bit of time as he goes over the line. It is actually the second slowest of the times that we've seen so far. Now here is Carl Etemezian, the Lebanese driver, 4 tenths of a second down. That at the moment would place him second quickest. Let's see whether he can carry that time to the line and get himself ahead of Inigo Anton.
Not happy there, wasn't happy with that lap, but it's still, you saw, I don't know, it's not so bad. He's second for now. No, he's not happy at all with that. Think he knows he could have done better, and that's the thing around here. These drivers know exactly what they're capable of, so if they're breaking the beams and shaking their head, you know they've not had a good time here. So here's someone to watch. Here is Will Murdoch, the British driver, someone who said that he maybe didn't quite perform very well in pre-qualifying, thinks he could have maybe actually challenged the fastest driver in pre-qualifying, Kylian Drumont, but we're going to find out now as he comes on to start his flying lap. Will's dad's here today as well in the audience, so he's got a little bit of support here in this Singapore crowd.
Yeah, I was having a chat with Will actually. I was finding out a little bit about what he does, and he works on railways doing like CAD design in 3D, 4D, 5D. really impressive technical stuff. He said that he loves his job because mainly his boss is able to let him go and come here and do things like the Olympic Esports Series. So really keen to see what Will Murdoch is going to do. Bullish, wasn't he, after qualifying, saying, "Nah, do you know what? I can take the fight to Killian and Adriano at the front."
But down so far on Angel and Estroza. I mean, you look at the Angel's gap right now. He's got half a second on the entire field. So really mighty lap there from Angel. Far quicker than we saw in pre-qualifying, actually. And actually watching Will Murdoch, go on to the back straight there. A little bit messy. I think he messed it up a little bit. And then you see he's dropped a bit more time to Estroza. But right now, on for a second place, if he can keep the time where it is.
It's going to be really hard for him to make that time up, though. 10th and a half. I think if he can keep that, as you say, at a constant and not lose any further time, it will be damage limitation there for him. It's not going to be the fastest overall time here for the British driver unless he has a meteoric final sector, but it's pretty much flat to the floor as you come out of that hairpin. Let's see what Will Murdoch, though, is going to be able to do as he comes across the line here in the one and only flying lap for him, and he loses a bit more time, but still goes second quickest, the second of the drivers into the 14s.
Another shake of the head. I think the pressure's getting to some of these drivers here now, as we have Bruin as well from the Netherlands. I've not seen much so far of this driver, so I'm not really sure what to expect from him.
I was having a chat with him actually yesterday, and he said that he's been wanting to compete as part of the sort of Gran Turismo tour that we do, and he was saying, I haven't been able to. I've been too young. I've wanted to make myself on this international stage. This is now my first opportunity here for the Olympic Esports Series 2023 motorsport event. What a way to make your debut, hey?
Well, imagine that, your first event and it's in front of this amazing live audience here at the Suntec City Centre. Two temps down, though, through the first sector. Angel was mighty through there, wasn't he? He really hooked that up. But we're now starting to get into the faster drivers of the pre-qualifying. As we work our way down, it's a reverse order. So we're going to start seeing times get a bit more competitive through there. But what we are seeing, it's all about that first sector, Tom.
Yeah, it seems to be where they're gaining and losing time through there. And as you said earlier on, Jimmy, you know, if you lose time in that first sector, you're carrying that all the way through the second and the third, and then you're chasing your tail, effectively. So 0.3 of a second down here for De Bruin. That could drop him into third place, just behind Will Murdoch, if he's able to hold that time to the line. But we've seen drivers losing further amounts through the second and the third sector. Let's see what De Bruin is going to be able to do then. So the Dutchman then comes to the timing line. What is he going to be able to do, and where will he be able to place himself on the grid? It is third quickest. He slots himself in between Murdoch and between Etemesian, so not a bad lap time there for him, as we now look at Giorgio Mangano, the Italian driver, winding himself up for a flyer.
Starting to get into the heavy hitters now. Giorgio Mangano, if you're a Gran Turismo fan, you'll know him. He's been around for a very long time in the Gran Turismo scene across multiple iterations of Gran Turismo, and now here, of course, competing on the main stage at the Olympic Esports Series. Coming up for the first sector. This is a sector that matters. Let's see how he is through here. Oh, very, very close to the curb there. Might have compromised the right-hander a little bit for that, but let's see, he comes across the timing beam. 3 temps down already. Man, Angel was so good through there.
He was. But you have to say, though, when we watched the comparison lap between Giorgio Mangano and Killian Drummond earlier on, he did take that slightly wider line through the right-hander, but caught up the time later on in the lap.
You'll see that as well. It's not one line is the fast line round there, and oversteer on exit. He would have lost a ton of time there, and in the worst place possible, because now that mistake is carried all the way to the end of the straight. Look at the split here. He's now half a second down, and I think he'll be even more, even further behind, coming down into the hairpin now. So that's we've seen this from Giorgio. Sometimes he just doesn't quite hook up the qualifying lap, and that affects the entire race. So not a good lap there from the Italian driver.
Yeah, it's going to slot him quite far down the order relative to where he would like to have qualified. Let's see where this is going to be for Mangano as he comes to the line then here in this session. Mangano into the 15s.
Oh, wow.
Dearie me, down in 7th place at the moment, and there's still 3 drivers left to run. It'll only be a best of 7th on the grid for the Italian driver, considering he was 4th in the qualifying session yesterday. He is going to be ruining that, and now opportunity knocks possibly here for Jose Serrano.
Here's a man to watch out for. Jose Serrano is an absolute demon in the qualifying in our Gran Turismo events. Can he translate that here to the Olympic Esports Series? Let's see. Through the first sector now, nice and neat and tidy so far. One turn of the wheel is what you want to see. You don't really having multiple turns of the wheel, multiple applications of the throttle, just nice and smooth. Coming through the right-hander now, still 2.5 tenths behind Angel and Estroza. So whatever Estroza did through there has just caught everybody else out so far. But we know Jose Serrano is quick. Let's see if he can bring some of that time back through the middle sector here.
Yeah, not looking too bad here is Jose Serrano in this middle sector. Flicks it through that left-hander on towards the back straight, but oversteer on the exit of the turn. That's the second time we've in that in as many laps here. And again, he's going to be carrying that all the way through. So through the tunnel, burst briefly into the daylight, then back into the darkness. Thankfully, there's not quite as much of an adjustment as you might have at, say, Monaco, for example. But in towards the braking zone of the hairpin, 0.3 of a second down, slightly wide on the entry of the corner, and again oversteer on the exit here for Serrano. It's not going to be an ideal lap for the Spaniard as he comes around the final turn.
Yeah, just a bit tight there on the exit. He's still turning the wheel coming to the end of the corner. You don't want to see that. But anyway, let's see what sort of time he puts on the board. Oh, 15-1. But that puts him P3 for now. So I'm not sure he'll be happy with that. But still, an age away from Inestrosa. Now we're on to Carrazza, the Brazilian driver. We know Carrazza very well. Someone that on his day, I'd say, is almost unbeatable. But is today his day, I think, is the question.
Well, we know that the South American drivers, the likes of Angel Inestrosa and Adriano Carrazza, they do practice together relatively often because, of course, they're in the same time zone. And we, as you said, we know that Carrazza does have the pace underneath him, but can he string the lap together? I tell you what it does do this, is it really puts in perspective just what an incredible lap time that Angel Inestrosa was able to set. He's still nearly 0.3 of a second faster than any of the other players here as Carrazza comes over the line then ready to begin his one and only flying lap. Where do you pick your braking point as you come down in towards that first turn? Nice though, through that hairpin, keep it nice and smooth on the exit of the corner. A little bit close. Cheeky over the curve there, wasn't he?
Yeah, very close to track limits. You're going to have two wheels inside the white line at all times here, so just about managed to get away with that one, I think, through the first sector. He's the closest of anyone's been so far to Angel Inestrosa, so a good first sector there for Carrazza as we come now through the middle sector. A lot of this is kind of flat out through here. It's about this braking zone and the throttle application onto the back straight here. We've seen it catch out a couple of drivers. Let's see if Carrazza can get through okay. Nice, neat, tidy, but maybe slightly outside the white lines there.
He was quite wide actually through the right-hander before the one that we just saw, and I wonder whether that is going to cost him a little bit more. Yeah, it has there. So he's now nearly 0.3 of a second down. Still the second quickest at the moment in that second sector, but will he be able to improve or at least hold that deficit as he goes through the hairpin bend? Now he's at risk of overdriving and again flirting with the edge of the track as he goes to the white line. Now it's flat out, pin the throttle as you come to the checkered flag at the end of his flying lap. Adriano Carrazza, what is it going to be for the Brazilian driver here at the Olympic Esports Series? He comes over the line, it's third. He drops behind Will Murdoch, loses a lot of time in the third and final sector.
Well, that means whatever happens now, Angel Inestrosa will be on the front row of the grid for the race, but now it's up to Kylian Drumont. This is the man to watch, ladies and gentlemen. Online, he has been an absolute weapon, incredibly quick, very, very fast over a single lap. Quickest, of course, in the pre-qualifying as well, and doing something else that no one else has done so far, trying to warm up those tyres, weaving around a little bit, trying to get some heat into the tyres so they grip the road a little bit better, and now Kylian winds up for his flying lap.
Did you see how he squared that hairpin bend off there to try and get as much speed as he can, as much momentum as possible to come across the timeline? Maybe it'll be a couple of miles an hour difference, but that could be all it takes to just get a hair's breadth of an advantage. Let's see as he comes down the start-finish straight, then over the crest of the hill into the braking zone of turn one. Nice and smooth, down into second, then into first gear. Get the exit out of here as well as you can. We know the first sector is where the drivers have been making or breaking their lap, and as he flicks it through the left and then the right, it's all looking pretty promising so far. And then in towards the next series of corners, nice and smooth through there, and he's up. Brilliant stuff there from Kylian Drumont, but he's lost it into the right-hander. And what has happened to the Frenchman here? Something's gone wrong for him, and it's compromised his qualifying lap. And well, bit of shock and disbelief there for Kylian Drumont.
I mean, after that first sector, we were expecting something huge there, but I think maybe a small issue, technical side there. So we'll have to see what happens there as our assistants there go to help Kylian Drumont. But let's go back to the qualifying so far. Inestrosa, incredibly strong so far. A lot quicker than anyone else on the grid at the moment, but I'm wondering if we're going to see another lap given yet. I'm not quite sure what the procedure is here.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is it's a little bit up in the air at the moment here for Kylian Drumont. If it was indeed some kind of a technical problem for him, they may decide to give him the chance to rerun. And the thing is, that presents in itself its own challenges. You know, you've got yourself psyched up, ready to go and in the zone, and then suddenly you've got to get yourself back into that frame of mind.
It's very jarring when something like that happens, because but that's again when you see the pros separate themselves from the amateur drivers. They are able just to put that aside and get back into that mindset straight away. You see there Jose Serrano looking on. Serrano, by his standards, I wouldn't say he'd be happy with that. P4, he's someone that we usually see comfortably in the top three. And you can see the stress there really getting, really getting to some of our drivers. I think that's, but not Will Murdoch. Will's having a great time.
Yeah, he looks pretty happy out there. I have to say, as you say, for Jose Serrano, his quickest lap time yesterday in the general qualifying session that we had to decide the top 12 drivers who made it through was a 1:15.412. Here, it was a 1:15.1. So it was a few tenths of a second quicker, but such is the advantage of pace that we've seen from our players. It has been, well, as you can tell, a very different amount of pace that's sort of been brought forwards, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, we talk about qualifying and whether and its effect on the race. We always say that it's incredibly important to get as high up the grid as possible. That might sound like a given, but it allows you certain things. It allows you to have your pick of a strategy. It allows you to set the pace of the race yourself as well. And I think basically starting anywhere outside the top three can be a little bit of a gamble because you end up having to fight with the cars around you, and all these guys down there think they're the fastest in the world, 100%, and none of them are going to give especially this guy Karatsa. We know how aggressive he is in sort of wheel-to-wheel combat, so to speak. So yeah, I think if you get sort of caught up in that, your race can be over almost before it starts. So the qualifying position is very important here.
Yeah, steely face of Karatsa there, looking pretty calm and comfortable as it stands at the moment. Just to his left is Giorgio Mangano. We know that Giorgio is capable of putting in some good performances. Hasn't gone necessarily his way so far here in qualifying, but I'll be keen to see what is going to happen when we get under racing conditions. Of course, an amazing car and track combination, though, here for the Olympic Esports Series Motorsport event final, Jimmy. I mean, Deep Forest Raceway, we love this track, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I've been part of the Gran Turismo sort of parade for a long time. I've been a player for a very long time myself. And seeing this circuit now here on the world stage at the Olympic Esports Series is awesome. It's like an old friend, you know, seeing it come back again. The car as well, the Toyota 010. DR010 hypercar, incredibly fast car. We saw it actually at Le Mans recently as well. Not quite the result they wanted there, but at nearly 700 horsepower, which is why we see the players struggle coming out of the hairpins, trying to put that power down as quickly and as effectively as possible. How
do you drive a car that's got this much downforce? Because you've driven cars with downforce, you know, in the real world and virtually as well. What's the best way of tackling it?
Grab it by the scruff of the neck. You know, this car has so much grip in the corners and in the braking as well. In fact, the way you brake in these cars is you slam the brake as hard as possible. You almost kick it like you don't like it, you know. And that really activates the downforce in the first part of the braking phase. And as you get into the apex, you start to gradually trail off the brake. Because if you don't, these cars, they do have ABS, but a lot of these guys tend to run without it because it's a bit quicker. You can quite easily lock a wheel. And you lock a wheel here, I guarantee 4 or 5 drivers are going to be up the inside and through, and you're going to have to do that work all over again. But
it does punish very, very minor mistakes. We've seen that as well. Look at this, the Olympic Esports Series trophy. One of our players will be going home with this in a very short space of time. And you have to say, all 12 players have driven incredibly well so far. Special shout out also to Al-Mohamed Ali, the Singapore driver. He's not actually had as much practice as everybody else because, of course, he was a bit of a wild card coming into this one.
Yeah, here's our live audience here. Guys, give us a wave live here, of course, at the Suntec City. Great to have an audience back once again. A lot of very enthusiastic Singapore residents here, of course, supporting Al-Mohamed Ali. As you said, a little bit of a disadvantage he's at here, but he's performed well so far. And I think as the race goes on, we'll see him speed up a bit with the rest of the competitors.
I've just had confirmation that Kylian Drumont will get another bite at the cherry. He will be able to get his qualifying lap time in a few moments' time. There's just a short delay whilst they make sure that everything is all okay for him and that he's going to be able to compete as well as he can. There is Will Murdoch competing for as part of Great Britain, and very much looking forward to seeing what the driver from up north in the UK is going to be able to do. Very impressive time for him in qualifying. He said that he would have the pace to bring it to the front with the likes of Karatsa, Serrano and Kylian Drumont potentially as well. And we know that he set a very good lap time. Here's Kaj de Bruin, the Netherlands Dutch driver. And as you can see there, young lad, but making his debut on an international stage here for the Olympic Esports Series. I am really keen to see what he is going to be able to pull out of the bag under racing conditions. And let's just talk about that very briefly here, Jimmy. 42 laps, strategy is going to be an interesting set of circumstances as well.
It's what I like about the motorsport event here, is that is part of the challenge. You can be quick on circuit, but you also have to be, you also have to know what you're doing. You also have to understand what is the quickest way to complete the race distance here. Now, they'll have 3 sets of tyres available to them: racing soft, racing medium, and racing hard tyre. And just like if you're a fan of a certain open wheel series that goes around the world, you'll know that the soft tyre is the quickest, but wears out the fastest. The medium tyre is somewhere in between, and the racing hard tyre will last forever, but isn't really that quick over a short distance. So picking the right tyre at the right time at the right phase of the race is 100% a massive part of winning this race, or being at the sharp end of this race. And all these guys they'll be at home thinking about this. They'll be in the hotel doing little calculations, I'm sure, of what the best strategy is. And I'm wondering if they've all come to sort of a consensus, or we're going to see wildly different strategies throughout the course of the race.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'll talk through strategies a little bit later on, but 42 laps is no mean feat, and the time multiplier is at time 6. So what that means effectively,
following someone on the hard compounder tyre and you're on the soft compounder tyre, you have to think, okay, is it worth me trying to burn this tyre, get past this guy? Yeah, of course it is. He's on a slower compound. If you're on a harder compound...
How are you doing after that?
Absolutely awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do you know, as you're doing it, that you're just in that flow, in that headspace?
Yeah, somehow I managed to get a good lap. I mean, it's just the mindset, I guess. Yeah. Just do what you do your best, and that's it.
I mean, obviously the track is something you know really, really well. Is it one of your favorites?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's an original GT track. I know it very well, so yeah, it's one of my favorites.
And your commute here was pretty long to get to Singapore. It took a little while, right?
Yeah, exactly 33 hours. So quite a jet lag, for example, but it is what it is.
Maybe jet lag is good for you. It's put you in the right mind space to drive well.
I hope so. I hope everyone can get a really good race and we give a good spectacle to people.
What's it been like meeting some of the new drivers?
They are really, really fast. They are good drivers as well. So, yeah, everyone is going to be a challenge.
I mean, I suppose it's one thing if this is your first time with Gran Turismo. How would you describe the community?
The community is the best you can find out there. We are basically all friends. So, yeah, we face each other on the track, but we are all friends.
In the end, there's always a dance-off, right?
Yeah.
So, who are you most concerned about? Is it Kylian is your biggest competition, do you think?
I would say everyone, you know. Okay. But yeah, Kylian is really fast, Jose Serrano as well, but everyone.
Yeah. Because also as well, with there just being one longer race, lots of other kind of factors are going to come into play in not the same way for normal like Gran Turismo. Like what's your thinking? What's your strategy for that?
Well, if we talk about the actual strategy, I don't even know what to do, honestly. I'm still thinking about it. Okay. But yeah, the strategy is going to be like stay away from any incident and just do my race.
Drive fast, get out the way.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, let's give a big round of applause. We're going to go and do Kylian's qualifier now. Over to you guys.
Cheers, Jules. Angel Estrada, drive fast, don't crash. The Jimmy Broadbent strategy in full effect then, as we get ready for the rerun of Kylian Drumont's qualifying lap. Now, the time to beat is 1:14.7, set by the gentleman we were just talking to, Angel Estrada. What is Kylian going to be able to do? We know he had a very strong first sector, 200ths of a second up. It's a case of what might have been, but now need to put that to the back of your mind, focus on the here and the now, and what you can pull out of the bag.
And also, this is a fresh set of stress for Kylian Drumont, because now he's not part of a session. He is qualifying on his own in front of a massive live audience. And there he is now, going out onto circuit, onto the outlap. So if you're Kylian Drumont now, you have to try and reset. You have to try and get your brain back into the zone that you're in just now. But he knows what he did. I mean, he knows how he got the car into the operating window. He warmed the tyres up a little bit. You saw him moving around. You saw him, as you said, square off that last corner to get the best run down to T1 as possible. So that's all in his mind. He's thinking about that. He knows it works, and he knows he can nail the first sector. So he's now got to just go out there and execute it.
Well, let's see what Drumont is going to be able to do then through the second of the tunnels in towards the middle sector of the lap. This is where we saw Adriano Carazza going a little bit wide on his qualifier a few moments ago. Then it's the long back straight on the run down into that hairpin. So Drumont then with the pressure very firmly on his shoulders.
Yep, coming on now to start his flying lap, come up to the last corner. So Kylian Drummond, all or nothing. The last qualifier to go. We know how fast he is. Just preparing now, as you can see, squaring off that last corner, flat on the throttle, and the Frenchman flies towards the start-finish line to start his flying lap.
It's all eyes then on the Frenchman, Kylian Drummond, as he comes to the timing line. One bite at the cherry. The circumstances haven't been ideal for him, but what is he going to be able to pull out of the bag? Across the line we go then. Let's see what Drummond is going to be able to do. Over the crest, into the braking zone of the first corner, nail that apex there as best as you can, into second gear, short shift up into third, nice smooth exit through there as he comes in towards the S-bends. So this is the first part of the first sector, then you flick it into the left, then the right once more, nice and smooth. This is where it all went wrong for him at last time. As he goes through the first sector, it's a 21.2, that's not bad at all.
A little bit of a wobble there coming out of a tunnel, so you can see he's on it at the moment. We won't know if his time's quick or not until we get to the end of the lap, really. He's coming on now to the back straight. We've seen other drivers make mistakes here. Let's watch Kylian through there. Nice and easy. Good application of the throttle there. And now absolutely pinned coming down to the last hairpin. This last corner is crucial for lap time, so he'll be looking for that braking marker.
Yep, so coming in towards the light we go, and then into the hairpin bend. Pick your braking point here, Kylian. Get it all good and squared off into the apex of the corner. Nicely done through there, smooth on the exit as well. That's pretty crucial because he'd be carrying that all the way to the timing line. A 1:14.770 is the time to beat for Kylian Drummond, and as he rounds the final corner and comes across the line here at the Olympic Esports Series motorsport event, what is the time going to be for the Frenchman? It's a 17.81. It's 1/100th of a second separating those two drivers. It's the front row of the grid for Kylian, but it's not enough to depose Angel Enestrosa from pole position.
So close, so close. And yeah, I do have to wonder, though, if the issues there for Kylian Drummond maybe sort of got into his head a little bit, but it can happen. But an awesome lap from Kylian Drummond. I think where he belongs on that front row. We are set now for an amazing race here on the Olympic Esports Series.
Yeah, it's going to be a rolling start for the drivers, so he's going to have a bit of time to make up in the early stages. And you wonder now, because of course, they've, as you said earlier on, Jimmy, they'll have done all those calculations for strategy. And Kylian would have thought about, you know, if I start from first, I'll try this. If I start from second, I'll try this. Now he might be having to rethink his strategy a little bit more.
Maybe. Do you reckon we'll see a send at the start? I know that Kylian likes to lead. He likes to lead a race, but as does Angel Enestrosa. I mean, Angel, of course, we know extremely fast. I think actually got the better of Kylian at the last Gran Turismo event that we held. So this is going to be a battle of the titans, and I cannot wait to see what happens.
It does depose Will Murdoch off of the front row of the grid, which I know he'll be a little bit disappointed with. So second row start there for the British driver. Final preparations now in place on the stage here in Singapore for the Olympic Esports Series motorsport event. Just to remind you, of course, 42 laps ahead of the drivers in this race. Strategy coming into play as well with 3 tyre compounds. They must use at least 2 of them during the race. And in terms of the time difference, what we're expecting between the two, racing softs, which is what all the drivers qualified on a few moments ago, that is the quickest tyre. Then you've got mediums, which are about 0.6 slower, and then the hards, which are 0.1, 0.4 slower. Anyway, before we get racing action underway, let's go down to the stage and see who Julia's caught up with.
Who? Man of the hour. Well, I mean, that was a lot of stress, you know, to do it this way. How did you feel?
I feel good. I'm really happy with this lap. I need to a good race now, yeah. And I think it's good. I think for me, I am less nervous on the race than qualifying. So now I think it's I think I can have a good result. So let's see the race and let's go around and good luck.
So when you had to restart, how did you have to like calm yourself down to like refresh? How did you do this?
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster. It's like, game crash, and so yeah, it's still difficult to concentrate on again for the qualifying. So.
But you did. That was an amazing time.
Yeah, I lose my last turn, but the love of the lap, I'm happy. So yeah, it's okay.
And obviously, you know, going into the main race, like, what is your strategy? It's a long race. You've got some new drivers. What is your thinking?
I don't know, because
well, everyone says they don't know. No.
We have just 1 hour practice for this race, so let's see the race. I don't really know the best strategy for the race, so let's see. And I hope it's good for me.
Yeah. You'll do good. You always do good.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, let's have a big round of applause for Killian, and we'll chuck it back to Tom and Jimmy.
Killian Drummond then smiling and happy despite circumstances not necessarily falling in his favour.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one for Killian, but as you heard him say, he's more focused on the race. He has very good race pace, so I don't think he'll be too disappointed with that, but I think the certain factor is we're going to have an awesome main event here in the motorsport event for the Olympic Esports Series in Gran Turismo 7. Do you have any picks, Tom, from that? Or?
Oh, I don't know. It's so difficult to call after qualifying. Let's have a look at the strategy before I can get out of that answering that question. So you see Racing Soft there, the quickest tyre compound. 0.6 is the difference between that and the Racing Mediums. 1.4 seconds between that and the Racing Hards. And this is what we're expecting, essentially. So if you start on the Softs, you're going to do 2 stops in that one, go onto the Soft again, and then probably go onto the Hards for the end of the race. And then if you start on the Hards, you'll go to the Mediums. If you start on the Mediums, you'll go to the Hards. If you start on the Hards, then you'll go to the Softs for the end.
Yeah, I say a 2-stop strategy is probably the aggressive strategy you'd run if you have a clear circuit, or if at the back of the grid you want to try and make some waves, because you need to be in clean air, getting the most out of that soft compound tyre, otherwise it's almost worthless. So I think we might see Angel Enestrosa, we might see Killian Drummond, maybe even the second row of the grid go for that aggressive strategy at the front, whereas the rest of the field I think maybe a bit more conservative and go for the 1-stop.
2 different tyre compounds that must be used in this one. You can see the pit loss time as well, 24 seconds plus the 2 seconds for the tyre changes. No fuel strategies to worry about in this one. And just a reminder as well, the tyre multiplier is at ×6. And what that means effectively, if you're new here, welcome along first of all, but tyre multiplier at ×6 means that 1 lap is the equivalent to 6. So those soft tyres are going to wear out significantly faster than any of the other compounds. And it might just be a case of being able to nurse those for as long as you can before you make the switch over to your next compound.
Yeah, definitely. No refuelling required in this event, so it's pretty much push as much as you can from start to finish, of course, keeping the tyre alive as well. And also the pit stop timer as well, about 24 seconds we've seen there, roughly for a pit stop here. So the drivers will be taking that into consideration, thinking whether that 2-stop is actually worth it or not.
Well, the thing is, we don't know what tyres the drivers are starting on at the moment because we haven't seen. The only chance we'll get to see that is when we go ready for the rolling start, essentially, and the sort of warm-up takes place, which is not a particularly long amount of time. So we'll have to dissect it all then and work out who's starting on what and what strategies are going into play. But you have to say this is a golden opportunity here, at the start of the race at least, for Angel Enestrosa from pole.
Yep, definitely. That's where you want to be. You want to be able to control the race and not have to worry about people squabbling behind you. But you see the drivers getting their last little bit of practice in before the big event. I can't imagine what they must be feeling right now. I mean, I'm someone who I crack instantly under pressure, so I'm not sure how these guys are dealing with it. But I mean, just being here and just being on stage is, I think, a massive achievement for everyone here, regardless of result. So I think they all should be proud that they've managed to be here and, of course, represent GT in this way.
And not just the 12 players that are here at the moment as well, the 31 that actually made it here to Singapore. Incredible achievement to be the fastest driver in your country and be able to make it over here to Singapore as part of the Olympic Esports Week. It's just amazing, and what an experience for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And we've heard as well, we heard from Angel, it took him nearly over 30 hours to get here. Pretty much anyone else from Europe as well. It took me about 20 odd hours to get here. So
not that you've mentioned it once or twice.
No, not at all. I'm not a diva. But, you know, all these guys, the majority are working with some quite severe jet lag, and yet still up there putting in times that will put anyone else to shame. So, yeah, a great performance so far. And I want to just get started now. I want to see how these guys are going to tackle the race.
So if you're going into this at the moment then, Jimmy, you know, you've got all this pressure on, you've got cameras, you've got the racing action, you've got the audience that are here as well. It's all part of this huge event. How mentally do you think you're going to have to prepare yourself for this?
I think really, I mean, they've got some pretty decent headphones on there. You know, a good set of noise-cancelling headphones is the best thing ever, but all you can really do is focus on your race. There's nothing else you can do. I mean, it's very tempting to look over the shoulder, see what your competitors are doing, or look behind you and see the crowd behind you, but I think ultimately those things just distract you from that. The prize there, of course, that one of our drivers will end up with at the end of this race.
12 drivers, one prize in mind. Just in front of you there is the trophy that will be awarded to the winner of the Olympic Esports Series 2023 Motorsport event. We're about ready to get this one underway ahead of the finals then. Drivers are ready. We're ready up here in the commentary box. We hope you're ready wherever you're joining us from as well. Here we are then, ready to go for the starting grid of the finals of the motorsport event. And here is how the field is going to line up ahead of a 42-lap race. It's the Chilean Angel Enestrosa who starts on pole position. Alongside him on the front row is Kylian Drumont. Next up is Will Murdoch, the British driver, heading row 2. Alongside him will be the Brazilian Adriano Carrazza. We know he's not afraid of getting his elbows out. Jose Serrano next up on row 3 for Spain. And then it's Kaj de Bruin, the Dutchman, in 6th place ahead of Carl Etemesian, the Lebanese driver, just in front of Anton from the Philippines. 9th place is Yosuke Goto from Japan. Not a good qualifying for him. Ground to make up. And likewise, Giorgio Mangano. We're expecting more from him. He's got a lot of work to do to make forward progress ahead of Heng Se. And then Mohamed Alif, the Singapore driver. A huge cheer from the crowd as we get ready to go green. And now is our first chance to look at the tyres here, Jimmy. Angel Enestrosa starting on the soft tyres. Everybody else, bar Anton and Alif, going on to the mediums.
So Angel there going very aggressive, which means he needs to get these first 10 laps or so absolutely perfect if he's going to make that strategy work. As you say, the majority of the field choosing a medium tyre, including Kylian Drumont, who's on the second row of the grid as well. So now the drivers having their last little deep breath, preparing for 42 laps of Deep Forest Raceway here at the Olympic Esports Series. It's going to be an amazing race. Do not look away.
Well, we're about to make history then. 12 drivers, 42 laps and 1 prize. And 1 goal to become the winner of the Olympic Esports Series 2023 motorsport event. Who is going to be crowned as the winner? We are about to find out as the drivers make their way to the timing line. The Olympic Esports Series motorsport event finals are underway here in Singapore. It's Angel Enestrosa that leads the field across the timing line. Down towards the first corner, followed by Kylian Drumont and Will Murdoch. Nobody darting out into the braking zone at the moment in the first part of the circuit, but Yosuke Goto there getting his elbows out on Anton, moving his way up into 8th place, but dropping back in the early stages of the first sector, right to the back of the field as Enestrosa leads the way from Drumont and Murdoch.
Yeah, small mistake there from Goto now actually at the back of the field. I think maybe he went off circuit there, but we'll see if we can get a replay of that at some point. But now, this man, Angel Enestrosa, needs to be on it straight away. He needs to be pulling away from his pattern behind him. Already a small gap there between him and Kylian Drumont, the Frenchman, as we go onto the back straight for the first time. Will Murdoch there up into P3 already, so he's now looking to try and challenge, I think, Kylian Drumont. Someone else who said he was decent in pace, in the race pace, was Will, so we'll keep an eye on him as he progresses. But Enestrosa now stretching that lead up to 0.6 of a second as you come into the heavy braking zone of the last corner for the first time. Oh, Murdoch there, a little bit wide. Oh, in the background there,
that's
De Bruin off.
Yeah, he's gone off into the hairpin there, and side by side a little bit further back there with Anton, Mangano and Heng Se, but not good there at all for De Bruin. I think he was just able to gather it up before losing too much time, but it did drop him out of contention very briefly, and now he's got a lot more work to do than he'll have anticipated. Across the line at the end of the first lap, Enestrosa then from Drumont, from Will Murdoch, then Adriano Carrazza. The thing is here for Kylian Drumont, he might end up being a bit of a sitting duck, because if Enestrosa is able to pull out the gap in the early stages, he might fall out of slipstream range, Drumont.
Yeah, that's something we haven't mentioned around here, of course, is the draft, the slipstream. Running behind a car in front basically takes away the air resistance of the car you're in, so you're a bit quicker in a straight line. And that we tend to say that that's in range to about a second and a bit, 1.2 seconds, 1.1 seconds, around there or so. And Enestrosa is starting to approach that gap now where Drumont will no longer be benefiting from that slipstream. Murdoch, though, still behind. 7/10, so we're riding on board with him now as we go back to Kylian Drumont. Gaps starting to open up and down the field now as Enestrosa, Drumont, Murdoch, Carrazza, your top 4 at the moment, with Serrano 5th.
Big winners on the opening couple of laps with Mangano and Heng Se then. Let's see what happened here as we come in towards the hairpin bend. So Heng Se on the inside there of Anton. Mangano getting a bit of a biff there from the Philippines driver as well. And De Bruin, we saw in the early part of that corner as well, had his own incident. He's now right at the back of the field. Incident under investigation between Etemesian, Serrano and De Bruin then for colliding with another car. Let's see whether anybody is slapped on the wrist and they get a warning, or whether any penalties are going to be awarded. Here is Goto, though, on the retaliation after a difficult opening lap. He's right on the back here of Heng Se. Over the timing line we go. Down the crest and in towards the first corner. Heng Se going defensive. Goto going towards the outside then. He's really going to have to get his elbows out here. He's getting quite aggressive. Bit of hip and shoulder between them. Heng Se holds on to 8th for now.
Something to worth noting as well, of course, is the racing line is where all the grip is. You get off the racing line onto the other part of the circuit, you get onto a part of the track that's a bit dustier. There's less grip out there, so you want to try and be on that racing line, the ideal line, as much as possible there, and try to go around the outside. No grip there. Maybe a little bit of assistance there from Hensei as well. But a good battle so far here between the Hungarian and the Japanese driver, who we're on board with right now. You can see his inputs there in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Our drivers there in the office, looking cool, calm and collected. But I can imagine the stress. Oh, there's a bit of a tank slapper there from Hensei. Goes into the wall on the outside, loses the place. But you can see just how on edge these guys are, trying to get the power down as quick as possible. And a mistake there costing him the place. Well,
the wonderful commentator's curse is alive and well from Jimmy Broadbent. No investigation further for the incident on the first lap there between the three drivers that we saw. An incident, though, is under investigation between Etemesian and between De Bruyn as well. So that's a separate incident that has happened here. Meanwhile, here is Gotto then now up into 8th place. Bit of a gap between himself and Giorgio Mangano, who's been one of the big winners in the opening couple of laps, made up 3 places into P7.
So in Astroza now, sorry, I've just noticed on the gap is now, he's out of slipstream range. So, and you're noticing straight away that Will Murdoch has closed onto the back of Kylian Drumont once again, because he still benefits from a draft that Drumont now unfortunately no longer does. So that is a difference there. You're seeing the soft tyre, you're seeing the speed differential. It's not as if in Astroza, as good as he is, has just pulled out a second a bit on Kylian Drumont. That is a tyre advantage, and you'll see as the laps go on, that tyre advantage will become less and less as that soft tyre wears away.
And also there's 2 sides of the coin here, aren't there? Because there's no fuel strategy involved, so you don't need to worry about lifting and coasting and trying to get as long as possible into the race as you can. But also, you don't want to be stuck behind in the dirty air with, which is what Will Murdoch is going to be in that position at the moment.
Yeah, actually, Will had a bit of a messy second sector there and lost a bit of time to Drumont, which is going to take him out of contention, I think, a little bit from that top 2 place, which is exactly what Kylian's going to try and do. Is try and break that toe as much as he can.
So out of the final corner then we go across the timing line to complete the 4th lap and start the 5th. So it is Angel Inestrosa that leads the field at the moment from Kylian Drumont, then Will Murdoch. Here is Jose Serrano trying to make up ground after a challenging qualifying for the Spaniard. He's just sat here behind Adriano Carrazza, the Brazilian, and I was wondering if we're going to see a bit more aggression there from Carrazza. Serrano closing up on the brakes here on the back of the Brazilian, but not close enough to mount a serious challenge at the moment.
You see on your screen there a little red dot next to Muhammad Ali there in P11. That denotes that he has a penalty, I think maybe for track limits. We haven't seen it there yet, so that'll be a 0.5 second penalty or so, which he'll have to serve on the straight. So I'll lose him a little bit of time. A shame, really. He's having quite a good start to the race in that hard compounder tyre. They've fallen off the back of the field, both himself and Anton, but I think that's mainly just because they're on that hard tyre. It isn't that quick at the start of the race. Anyway, meanwhile, back to Carrazza and Serrano, 2 drivers who know each other very well, who've driven together a lot. And you see now starting to use a little bit more of a track now, as they know they can get away with it, so they're out there using it.
Yeah, absolutely. You give these drivers an inch and they will take a mile. Bursting into the daylight, we are on board once again with Jose Serrano. He's close to the back here of Adriano Carrazza. Be a bit of a Dandare move if he does it on the brakes. He's certainly having a half look up the inside. Side by side they go. Serrano's through into 4th place. That was brilliantly executed and very good racing respect from Adriano Carrazza down into 5th place as well.
That's a very late move there by Serrano. I'm surprised that Carrazza let him have that, given his run of form. But maybe you're thinking, you know what, if he's quicker, I'll just follow him for now. But will we see a return of the move down towards T1? Carrazza's deep in the slipstream. Will he put out the last second? No. I think we're seeing a bit of more of a mature Adriano Carrazza at the moment. I think he's maybe just thinking, okay, I'll stay here for now. Serrano is quick. I'll stay in the tow, and we'll see if we can catch up to both Murdoch and Drumont in front.
Well, having a look at the lap time difference between the two, Serrano last time around was a 1:16.378. Carrazza a 1:16.9, so 0.6 of a second the gap in terms of lap times between those two. So you would imagine, given the pace differential, that Serrano is going to pull off into the distance. And I mean, look at that in the first sector already.
One of the fastest people on track right now is Giorgio Mangano in P7 on the medium compounder tyre. He's less than a tenth slower than Inestrosa on the soft tyre, made up 3 places so far. So disappointing qualifying for Giorgio Mangano, the Italian driver, but he is starting to bring it back, and that'll be helped as well because Etemesian has picked up a 2-second penalty. I think that's for some contact a bit earlier on.
Yeah, Christmas come early then for Giorgio Mangano, as he's now going to get an easy 6th place here. There is the penalty notification that you can see just under Etemesian's name. So 2 seconds is the time, and he will serve that next time around. You'll see that indicated by the yellow markers either side of the circuit. It's an automatic penalty. It basically cuts off your throttle, slows you down, but you don't only lose those 2 seconds in the penalty, because of course you've got to get yourself back up to racing speed afterwards too.
Maybe Mangano's one to watch it. Here's a replay of why that penalty was awarded. De Bruyne goes up the inside here. Eddie looks around the outside. Is there going to be a little bit of contact here as we go up the hill? Yeah, there you go, just spins De Bruyne. Oh, that's what happened.
So I thought it was the first lap. I was completely wrong there. So De Bruyne ended up down the order, and that's completely compromised his race.
It just goes to show why you want to try and get the best qualifying place possible, because you end up in that sort of scrum in the midfield where everyone's desperate to try and break out of it. And unfortunately for De Bruyne, a little bit of a victim there, and now down in 10th place. So you're going to see now the penalty marker is on the back straight, I think, here at Deep Forest Raceway. We're with Giorgio Mangano right now. You can see the little bar filling up above Edemezian's name there, his marker. When that's full, he'll slow down for 2 seconds and have to speed up again. And that realistically is probably going to drop him down to P9.
Yeah, he should move out off of the racing line out of harm's way, which he does, so very sensible there. Hopefully he doesn't cut back across it as he comes back through. So drops now behind Gotto as well, possibly under threat here from Hengse, because he's going to have the overspeed there as they get pretty close to one another into that hairpin bend. He was just able to hold it ahead of the Hungarian then, so down into 8th place for Edemezian. So a difficult race, goes from bad to worse for the Lebanese driver as they come across the timing line then.
So you can see on your screen there the tyre wear of the drivers so far, how the tyres are performing. You can see that soft compounder tyre for Inestrosa. His rear tyres are down at 50% of their tyre life, so he hasn't got much more left in them. They're going to start to get a bit slower now. He is still the fastest person on track, Angel Inestrosa. His gap is 3.2 seconds to Drummond behind. The nearest person on pace is, guess who? Giorgio Mangano, down in 6th, who's now +4 from his starting position. He started in P10 up to P6, so an awesome run so far, and now he's on the back of Carazzo. He's lapping nearly a second a lap faster than the Brazilian in front.
If you're wondering why the right-hand side of the tyres are a bit more worn than the left, it's an anti-clockwise circuit, this one. You're putting a lot more lateral load, especially in the sort of medium speed corners there on the outside, and that is why they're just going to be that little bit more worn compared to the left-hand side of the car.
Well, we see a big old fat lunge here from Mangano. He's thinking about it. Very late on the brakes up the inside there of Carazzo, who seemingly seemed to let him have it. He came from a different postcode there from that overtake up the inside, and Mangano on a charge right now. The Italian driver, I think, furious after qualifying, and now just getting on with it on circuit up to P5 from P10 on the grid.
Carazzo caught napping here, and now he's going to have to try and do the hard work all over again. They're side by side in the background for possession as well, but here we go, 2 by 2. Mangano on the inside, Carazzo on the outside. No room at the in for Carazzo at the moment. Meanwhile, look at this all kicking off here as they challenge for 7th place there. Hengse, Gotto and Edemezian, 3 drivers all running nose to tail with one another through that first sector. It's Gotto who manages to get the advantage and hold firm through there for now, but you have to say that Hengse really looks like he's trying to get his elbows out.
So we're on lap 9 at the moment as these guys are squabbling for 7th, 8th and 9th position. You see Edemezian there struggling with the traction of the car, and Hengse behind just trying to find a way by. You get the impression that the Hungarian driver's a bit quicker, dives up the inside there. Big, bold move, but it's going to be slow on exit. We might see the car under. No, he doesn't manage to keep the pace for now, but he will be deep in the slipstream coming up to the next corner, and that might be enough to gain the position back. But I think Edemezian may be just suffering a bit from the pressure. We've seen a few mistakes from him so far.
Hengse was the quickest of this trio in terms of lap times last time around, only by a couple of tenths of a second or so, but nonetheless, a carrot being dangled in front of him. He now sits as sort of the meat in the sandwich as he's now behind Gotto then through the hairpin bend into the final sector. Now his next target is the Japanese driver. Will he be able to find his way through next time around? He's a little bit too far adrift as it stands for the time being, but across the timeline we go to begin the next lap here, and you can see he is very much closing up, especially under the race. Let's have a look at the lap times there between the two. Hengse a little bit slower, of course, because he was on the attack and doing the overtakes there.
So a little bit, something to sort of mention. We're on lap 10 now, and this is about where we think the soft tyre is going to start to get a little bit slower. We think it can go a few more laps than this, but this is where it starts to fall off a little bit. Here is a replay of the start. So what happened here? So
this is Mangano and Hengse we're looking at down in 10th and 11th place, and we know that Mangano, of course, was further down the order than he'd have liked. Let's see how it happens into the first corner, because it was kicking off here. This was Gotto and Anton. Then, contact there. So that's why Gotto dropped down behind Mangano and Hengse.
I think that was more just a little bit too enthusiastic on the loud pedal there and just spun up the rear wheels. There is a warnings being handed out to the midfield battle. It is getting pretty aggressive there for 7th, 8th and 9th position. And if they're clever, they're going to have to think, we need to stop doing this. We're just wasting time to the cars ahead. Speaking of which, in Astroza, 4.1 seconds now clear of Kylian Drumont with Will Murdoch there still hanging on to the back. About 6/10 behind Drumont. Serrano 4th and Mangano, great start from him up into 5th, and also some of the best of the tyre wear we've seen so far from Mangano. So he's fast and keeping those tyres alive. Lap time wise, he is the quickest of the medium runners right now.
Drumont is the man in the pound seat here, because the differential between the lap times we were thinking was 0.6 of a second, but if you look at the lap times last time around, in Astroza a 1:15.9. I know his tyres are a bit more towards the end of their shelf life. Drumont was a 1:16.2, so only 0.3 of a second. If he can keep that gap at a constant sort of 4.5 seconds as it stands for now, when he makes his next call in terms of the tyres, this could be really crucial here for Kylian Drumont. And we don't actually have a strategy written down for starting on the medium and then going on to the softs, but it's certainly not out of the realms of possibility.
No, definitely not. And I think now this man, Angel Nestroza, is going to be starting to feel that tyre wear, especially on those rear tyres there, down to 25% almost of their wear life, which means coming out of these corners here is going to be very, very difficult. The car's going to want to spin up the rear wheels, and when you do that, of course, you open the opportunity to maybe even have a spin yourself or just lose a little bit of time. I think you see coming into the pit lane now. Yes, so there you go, our first pit stop. Angel Nestroza into the pits after 11 laps on that soft compound of tyre, going to the medium compound of tyre. Again, not a strategy that we've got written down here, but I think maybe that medium tyre, I think it's going to go maybe soft, medium, soft, but I don't think that's going to go to the end from here.
Well, yeah, it's going to be an interesting set of circumstances here for Angel Nestroza, because, as you say, throwing the form book out the window in terms of the strategies that the team at Polyphony Digital had written down before the start of this one. So into the pit lane we go, change of tyres for him.
So what he's going to be hoping here is he comes out in clear air. If he comes out behind Elif or Anton, he's going to be held up dramatically. So there they are. Oh, fantastic there. That's pretty much ideal for Angel Nestroza. He's got a little bit of a gap in front of him, so he can drive into that gap on these fresh medium tyres. Everything going well for Angel Nestroza so far. Yeah,
it's all coming up Millhouse then for Angel Nestroza as he sits with a bit of clear air in front of him. 7.1 seconds he is actually behind Kaj de Bruyn, so that's really nice. Actually, a good amount of time for him to just sort of sit there, run his own race, let everybody else figure it all out in front of him, and he can just do what he does best, and that's lapping all on his own, controlling his own pace and seeing where he ends up when everybody else has made their own strategy calls. Now the focus switches to Kylian Drumont, Will Murdoch and Jose Serrano at the front.
And this will be good information from Angel Nestroza as well, because the good drivers, they don't just focus on their race, they look at the other people in the race as well and seeing what they're doing on their tyre. And Drumont, Murdoch, Serrano, Mangano, all those guys are on medium compounded tyres, and they'll be able to show in Nestroza how far they go. Meanwhile, replay, Edemezian getting into the wars yet again, into the back of Hensei through T1 there. And I think probably that's what we call a bump and run in the business, and in circuit racing like this, it's frowned upon.
Yeah, not ideal there for Edemezian. As you said, he's not exactly had a particularly fortuitous race so far, and I'm sure he will be looking to try and calm things down a little bit as we head in towards the sort of mid-stages of this one. And, well, not ideal for him. Stewards, I'm sure, will be having a little look at that and seeing whether they deem that as a legal move, and whether it will be a little bit more frowned upon. Now then, here is Kylian Drumont, and the gap between himself and Will Murdoch has come down, actually. It's 1.2 seconds between them. Murdoch was about 0.6 of a second slower last time around, but nonetheless, looking pretty good out there is Will Murdoch, and could be on for a podium finish, but he's still getting himself back into sort of slipstreaming range here with Drumont.
Yeah, the pace has increased somewhat, actually. Drumont's sort of turned up the wick a little bit, and is now lapping significantly faster than the cars around him. Maybe just keeping that tyre alive in the first part of the phase, and then maybe pushing a little bit further on. But yeah, awesome to see him now starting to gain some confidence in that Toyota. Will Murdoch not really able to hang on to the pace at the moment. He's starting to fall back a little bit, but we know both his drivers are very, very quick, so we'll keep an eye on them as the laps count down.
Medium tyres are going to be coming towards the end of their shelf life here now, Jimmy, as well. We're expecting about 16 laps or so out on these. We're lap 14 at the moment, so they're going to be starting to get very worn. You can see on the left-hand side of your picture, less worn than the softs were for Angel Nestroza, so maybe a bit more life in them than we were anticipating.
Yeah, Nestroza, by the way, quickest car on circuit, last lap on the medium compound tyre. 16.0 from him compared to 16.3 and 16.5 from our top two respectively. Edemezian there now onto the back of Godot. We'll see if he can make a move. The Lebanese driver's been a little bit punchy, I think it's fair to say so far, Tom.
Yeah, slightly erratic in terms of his driving style. The next target up the road will be Adriano Carrazza, who's kind of been sat in no man's land over the course of this one. We're expecting him to get his elbows out. We've seen that from him over the last few years, and, well, he's just not been able to respond to the questions that he's been given.
No, not so far. But on board now with Etemesians, we come now down to the heaviest braking zone on the circuit. You go from nearly 300 k's down to 65 there.
First pit stop.
Yeah, Kylian Drumont comes into the pits. Interestingly, not followed by Will Murdoch.
And onto the medium tyres here for Kylian Drumont as well. A medium strategy is not what we were anticipating, so you wonder whether he's going to go onto that for a short period of time and then get onto the softs as late as he possibly can. Let's have a look though at this battle between 5th and 6th place. Gotto versus Etemesian. Metion to the inside then. Can he get the move done at the first corner? They run side by side on the exit. Gotto is not giving any quarter. They're going to go 2 by 2 into this left-hander, but it's so difficult to thread the eye of a needle through here. Incredible driving between these two players, and Etemesian does manage to get 5th place ahead of Yusuke Gotto. Fantastic.
I've never seen cars go side by side there before. That's impressive. And Kylian Drumont out of the pit lane, importantly out ahead of both Alif and Anton as well. So again, similar to Inestrosa, he's put himself in some nice clear air, but interestingly 5.7 seconds behind Angel Inestrosa. That gap's come up.
Yeah, it certainly has. So this is going to be really interesting to see how it works out. Good thing is for Drumont, nice bit of clear air in front of him for the time being. He hasn't got to worry too much about any other sort of slower traffic that's out of sequence with his strategy. Here is Angel Inestrosa, the man who was in the lead of the race up until lap 11 when he pitted from the lead on the soft tyres on to the mediums. Giorgio Mangano into the pits as well. He's gone medium, following the same strategy as Drumont. What about Gotto? Is he going to try and repeat it? Yes, he is. So everyone's seen what Drumont has done and said, yeah, I'll have a bit of that as well.
Yeah, I think that's probably the clever thing to do at this point. So Mangano still one to watch. His pace before the pit stop was very quick, and we'll see if he can come back through the field and make up for a poor qualifying. So 16 laps in then to the motorsport event final here at the Olympic Esports Series. Angel Inestrosa, P5 at the moment on the road, but I think overall once pit stops are said and done, will be leading this race once again. Currently led by the British driver Will Murdoch from Jose Serrano in second. Here are the fastest laps as well. We're still working our way through the pit strategy at the moment, so the driver's a little bit out of position, but give it a few laps, it should work itself out again. But that's part of these events. It's not just who's quickest on the circuit, it's who's quickest in the pit lane as well. Makes it nice and complicated for us commentators trying to work it all out as we go along.
You can see the lap times there on the left-hand side of your picture. Hengste the fastest man because he's gone on to the soft tyres for his middle stint in the race. I mean, he's got nothing to lose really as Hengste at the moment because he's been having a bit of a shocker of a race sort of caught up in the wars. Will Murdoch pits from the race lead, going medium, following the same strategy as well. Jose Serrano, what is he going to do? He comes across the line and does not go into the pit lane then, so he seemingly looks a bit more comfortable with those tyres and has gone on to lap 17 on the medium compound.
They're coming into the pit lane now, medium for Will Murdoch, as said. So I think what we're probably going to see is soft, medium, soft, or something of that variation. I don't think the hard tyre is really going to be used at all by the guys at the top of the field. You don't need to use the tyre. All you have to do is use two different types of tyres. So you can see there, Murdoch there emerging behind Drumont, and importantly again ahead of Alif. So they've all sort of fallen into the gaps they want to be in, but the gap now between Murdoch and Drumont is about 2.5 seconds. So the gap's starting to stretch out a little bit now.
Mohamed Alif here, still on the hard tyres. That's the compound of tyre that he started on. He's lapping in the 117s, about a couple of tenths of a second slower last time around than Anton, the Philippines driver, who, as we know, is the other man who started on the hard tyres. So that's kind of his only reference point here in this race. But he is still ahead of him at the moment and not doing himself a disservice at all. Very difficult to come into this one with a limited amount of track time, and of course making your debut on the international stage at the Olympic Esports Series on home soil as well. An incredible amount of pressure as Serrano comes into the pits, and he has gone to the hard tyre in the mid-stint then here.
And Carrazza to the soft. So we're going to see a little bit of diversions of strategy now for the top runners. This is going to get interesting. So Carrazza on this next stint is going to be a bit of a rocket. So he ideally wants to come out in some clear air so we can use that soft compound tyre to its full force, but we're unaware of what's going to happen or not. Here's Serrano there, taking a little break as well. These pit stops are nice for the drivers because whilst it is, of course, a way of changing tyres. It's also a nice moment just to chill out, take a breath, and then get back into the battle.
Oh, Serrano, though, he's emerged behind a leaf here. He's got that to do, hasn't he? That's not what you want. You want clear air, and it's not working at all here for him. He should be able to dispatch of a leaf pretty quickly, given the fact he's on a quicker compound of tyre, and of course they're a lot fresher than the old hards, but still not ideal for him.
Yeah, both on a hard compound of tyre there, but as you say, Tom, for a leaf, those tyres are a lot older. But a good drive here from the Singapore native as well. The home audience here gave him a massive cheer when he came up on stage. It's good to see someone being represented here, of course, as well. Someone who didn't get as much practice, I think, as everybody else, but still performing extremely well under pressure here from one of the most seasoned drivers, Jose Serrano, now frankly pushing him out the corner, right up behind his rear wing at the moment. He's going to try and get a slipstream up there. Actually pulled out for a second so he can pull back in and get an overshot. There you go, up to the inside now goes Jose Serrano. I don't think we're going to see a leaf challenge this as Serrano goes up to P4. Nice and easy in the brakes there. Serrano up to 4th.
Yeah, not a lot that he can do there. That does drop a leaf back into the clutches here of Giorgio Mangano, another man who's pitted very recently, but he's stuck behind the Singapore driver. Let's see how it works out here for the Italian. Then as they go 2 by 2 through the left-handed kink into the timing line, on board we ride. A leaf goes into the pit, so that disperses that battle, and now it means that Serrano is ahead of Mangano directly on track. Hensei, meanwhile, versus Anton are going 2 by 2. Hensei, of course, on the soft tyres. Should be pretty easy pickings there for the hard-shod Anton. And indeed it is. He's up into 6th place.
So Mangano's kind of a bit of a tough time of things now. He's got Jose Serrano in front of him, who is a very quick driver, but on a compound of tyre that is slower than his. So he's going to have to get pretty aggressive, I think, to get by, because I can pretty much guarantee that Serrano's not going to give it to him. He's not going to give him the place. Not Jose.
Mohamed Alif exiting the pit lane then into some clear air onto the medium compound of tyres. Here is the closest battle on your circuit at the moment, though. It's Serrano, Mangano and Hensei, and I tell you what, Hensei could be a bit of a cat amongst the pigeons because he's not involved in the battle really at the sharper end of the field, but he's trying to get himself to, and he's on the soft compound of tyre, so he could be set to spoil the strategy and the form book that Serrano and Mangano have set out for themselves.
I think so. I'm just looking at the strategies right now. We'll get to that in a second as Mangano now looks up the inside of Jose Serrano, late on the brakes to the apex before the Spanish driver can get there. And then the background, Hensei, I think, fancies the go as well, follows him through. That was very cheeky there by Ben Hensei, the Hungarian driver, now in the tow of Mangano. Mangano opened the door and Hensei walked through it.
Well, there you go. The supermarket deal is alive and well. 2 for the price of 1 as you come down the start-finish straight. Over the timing line we go to start the half-race distance here. Giorgio Mangano it is that still sits in 4th place ahead of Ben Hensei then in towards turn 1. And Hensei, you can see how much more grip and confidence he's got with that softer compound of tyre. Of course, the play-off to that is the fact that they are going to wear out significantly faster. Keep an eye out as well on Adriano Carrazza, also on the soft tyre, closing up onto the back of this trio here, and he could be ready to try and spoil the party and actually try and get some redemption in what has been an otherwise quiet race for the Brazilian.
Yeah, Mangano as well needs to be a little bit clever here with Hensei behind, because he's on that soft compound tyre, the fast tyre at the moment, and Mangano needs to be looking at the long game, needs to be looking at the race as a whole and not just this one moment. So I imagine we'll see him probably just give the place to the Hungarian driver. Riding on board now, you can see the inputs there in the bottom right-hand corner, up to nearly 300 kilometres now, 180 mile an hour, nearly 310 k's now, heavy on the brakes up the inside of Mangano there, gives him no room at all on the inside, outside there, just says, you know what, this is my place, I'm taking this, and now is going to rush off in pursuit of Murdoch in front.
Carrazza goes through on Serrano as well, so it's not been a particularly good middle stint for the race so far for the Spaniard, as now the Brazilian is up through into 6th. Across the timing line we go here now with Ben Hensei. Mangano back into the slipstream. Can he retaliate on the brakes in towards turn 1? He's certainly going to try. Hensei knows that, goes for the defensive line, cuts back over into the braking zone. Aggressive stuff there from the Hungarian. I think he might just get away with that.
Yeah, just about. That's fine. That's fine for me. It's just hard racing. And now up into P4. And this is a stint that really matters here for Benjamin Hensei, because he's on that soft tyre. He's got a bit of a gap in front of him now. He needs to push hard. And while that tyre is still alive and still quick at the moment. He's been on that tyre, though, for 7 laps. So it is going to start to fall off now. Not going to be as quick as it was. And I think also having to try and get through the field has slowed him down somewhat. But his last lap, even with all that traffic, was a 15.6. So the only person, he was the fastest person on the circuit there on that lap, even with an overtake.
Yeah, I tell you what though, Kylian Drumont, a couple of tenths of a second quicker than Angel Estrada. Both of these drivers on the medium compound of tyres at this stage of the race. Difference in strategies, of course, because we know that Drumont's gone medium. Estrada, meanwhile, has gone soft on to the medium tyres. But a couple of tenths of a second separating them. 5.5 seconds out here on the track as well. So it's still relatively consistent between the two. Drumont's lost a second or so. That could be the difference between being able to get the undercut when he wants to, or slotting in behind him when it comes into the latter stages of the race. But we're now over half race distance here, and it's Drumont, the man, who has got the pressure on him to try and deliver. You can see there a couple of tenths of a second slower over the last few laps than Inestrosa, up until the most recent one when he was able to just go that little bit faster.
I'm thinking that Angel has made the right choice here on tyres. I think what he's going to try and do, he's going to try and go to like lap 30 or so on these mediums, then we'll go back to the soft tyre. And I think that the stint that he had at the start of the race, that first stint, is going to win in this race if he can make that work. You can see his tyre wear, though, at the rear is starting to get fairly bad fairly quickly. So he's really got to nurse those medium tyres if he's going to make that work.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Drumont, what he wants to do is he wants to try and go longer and try and get the undercut effectively here, and, you know, slice through on Inestrosa when he's in the pits a little bit more frequently because he's had that soft compound of tyre, whereas Drumont is, of course, playing the longer game. It's the hair and the tortoise, really, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll see Killian, where he's come onto this medium tyre quite a bit later, so he'll be able to go on that soft tyre at the end and maybe even chase down Inestrosa. But we're talking, we're hypothesising right now. We don't know what's going to happen yet. We've still got a big chunk of this race left, and on that lap, Killian Drumont took a big chunk of time there out of Angel Inestrosa, nearly half a second. So Inestrosa may be already struggling with those medium tyres.
Well, this could be really important here for Inestrosa and his strategy on Borby Ride. Meanwhile, with Adriano Carrazza, Mangano nearly into the back of Hengse there, a little bit wide on the exit of the turn. Carrazza's pretty close behind.
Mangano now is being held up by Hengse in front, actually. He was quicker last lap. I think the tyres now have fallen off for the Hungarian driver. You can see the different lines for both of them there, optimising different corners. Carrazza's going to have a great run out of this right-hander, but nowhere really to go. Has to back out of it once again. And Mangano, I think, getting a little bit flustered, now being held up by a car in front with tyres that should be faster. And Mangano's strategy, I think, very much depends on him running in clean air, and this isn't that. So he's going to be losing time here every moment he's around another driver. Yeah,
Carrazza then stuck behind Giorgio Mangano. Mangano in turn stuck behind the Hungarian of Ben Hengse. Then they're at the reception, but they can't quite check in at the moment. Here comes Carrazza as they come through the tunnel. They're going to burst into the daylight side by side with Carrazza on the inside. Mangano doesn't defend the line too hard. On the brakes we go. Carrazza peels off the brake pedal, goes through into 5th place. Nice move for the Brazilian.
It's interesting, this midfield battle is getting really, really spicy, and I'm not, in terms of strategy, I'm not entirely sure where they're going to find themselves at the end of the race on that last pit stop. Everyone so far, as you can see from the P column on your board there, has made one pit stop at the moment. Everyone has to make at least 2, so everyone's got one pit stop yet to make for that last part of the race onto strategy there. And in the background, Elimezio passes Jose Serrano up into P7.
So across the circuit we go, and in through the first sector. You can see here that it is Ben Hengse then sits in 4th place ahead of Adriano Carrazza and Giorgio Mangano. Out in front, it's still Angel Inestrosa with a 4.4 second advantage. Here is Yusuke Goto right behind Jose Serrano. Serrano needs this like you need a speed bump on a runway because he's stuck behind him at the moment is Goto, and Serrano's middle stint in this one is not particularly worth writing home about at all. The hard compound of tyre seems to be, at the moment, the wrong call for the Spaniard.
It might be. He might also have a rocket stint at the end, but he's lost so much time in the middle here that I think the hard tyre in general is like lava. I think being on that tyre here was not the way to go. It's got on Serrano on board now with the Japanese driver looking up the inside, late on the brakes. Will he get it done? He does. A little flash of lights on the way there as well. So up into P8. Serrano just going backwards at the moment on that hard compound tyre. There's not much he can really do about it. It's not a reflection on Serrano as a driver. It's that tyre compound. He just has less grip everywhere. Can't brake as well. Can't accelerate as well. Can't turn as well. And it's really starting to affect his race here.
1.4 seconds is the difference between the soft and the medium compound of tyre. Still sitting on the back of him, he is in the slipstream. That's not too much of a problem. It's on the braking zone and especially the exit of the corner where the medium and the softer tyres have a lot more grip. Meanwhile, here is Adriano Carrazza on an absolute flyer behind Ben Hengse at the moment. Between the two of them last time around, it was actually Carrazza who was 0.3 of a second quicker than the Hungarian.
Fastest car on track at the moment, and Carrazza also currently holds the fastest lap of the race so far. So on this middle stint, he's been fairly mighty on those softs, but he's now having to encounter what for him will be a bit of slower traffic here in terms of Ben Hengse in front. So we're in the show. We've seen a lot of people make the move here, get into the slipstream behind, get the overspeed. Here it comes. Will he go to the inside? Will Hengse defend? He does. So he's going to make Carrazza go the long way around here. They're going to fight for it. Will Carrazza be able to outbrake him? Look around the outside. It's on the wrong line there. He's going to go really wide and try and get the cut back here. Oh, textbook there from Karatsa, side by side. Oh, what a move! You love to see that. Karatsa there played him like a fiddle. Well done. Up to P4 goes the Brazilian.
Classy from Karatsa as he elevates himself then up a position as they come across the line once again. Karatsa's next target is Will Murdoch, but he's 6 seconds adrift of that. But I tell you what, he's not taking it lying down, is Hengse here. Side by side they go into the first corner. The Hungarian trying to go the long way around the outside. Is he going to be able to do it? They run side by side on the exit of the turn. In towards the S-bends we go. And it's Hengse then with the inside line, but Karatsa with more grip underneath him and more tyre life left. And Hengse's off. He's into the wall nearly. And through the door goes Giorgio Mangano as it was opened by Ben Hengse there. A slight moment in that first sector cost the Hungarian driver quite dearly.
His tyres very worn at the moment. Those soft tyres have been on the car for a while, and I think maybe just got away from him. He was pushing a bit too hard. The tyre gave up, and off he went into the barrier. So now let's focus on the front of the field, because Angel Enestrosa and Kylian Drumont are doing pretty much identical lap times, but that gap has now come down to 4.1 seconds. So Drumont's taken about 1.5 seconds out of Enestrosa this stint, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's going to be important coming into that last important stint on what I assume is going to be the soft tyre. You see the difference there in the tyre wear. Drumont's got about another 15% on the rear tyres over Enestrosa, and he's going to be feeling that now, especially over these acceleration zones.
Well, this is what we saw between Hengse and Karatsa here. They were on board here with Giorgio Mangano. Talk us through this, Jimmy.
So let's have a look. They're side by side, and Hengse there on the inside actually gets on the grass a little bit, and now he's a bit frustrated, goes for a lunge and just gets on the throttle a bit too aggressively on that left-hander, and the car gets away from him. It steers to the left, and that's the worst thing possible. When your car goes left and the next corner's are right, you're in the cockpit going, oh dear, this ain't right. And unfortunately for him, ends a little bit of a charge on it, and as such, he has to come into the pit lane now to switch over to another set of those soft tyres. But I think that's too early to go onto the soft tyres to go to the end. I don't think those softs are going to make it to the end of the race.
No, it's about 12 laps or so is the tyre life. But then again, some drivers have been able to extend it by a couple of laps or so. It's going to be a tall ask for Hengse. Either way, it's going to be a bit of a sitting duck at the end of this one, because they will be pretty clapped out. Here is Angel Enestrosa. As you said, Jimmy, the gap has come down even further now to 3.6 seconds. So Kylian Drumont with an absolutely brilliant middle stint here, trying to put himself very much in contention. Enestrosa's going to have to pit sooner than Drumont, you would imagine, because he's got less tyre life, and he comes in at the end of lap 27. So Drumont will continue on because he's got at least another lap left of life in him, and now this is the time where Drumont needs to push like a man possessed. He needs to get every ounce of speed that's left in that Toyota GR010 out of it as much as he possibly can, because this is his time to shine, to try and get that undercut effectively over Angel Enestrosa.
Well, Enestrosa here is pitting early, so he'll be a bit quicker coming out for the first couple of laps, of course, but his tyres will be a bit more worn towards the end. Now, we think that we're going to see Drumont go onto the soft tyre for his last race. Now, interestingly, Enestrosa has come out behind a little bit of traffic there, so this could be huge and have huge implications for the race here in the motorsport event here in the Olympic Esports Series. And Enestrosa, maybe we're starting to see a little bit of a hold in the strategy plan from him.
Is this a chink in the armour for Angel then? Well, we're about to find out, because he's stuck behind De Bruyne at the moment. He's not close enough to mount an attack at the moment. De Bruyne also on the medium tyres, but they're a lot more worn than the fresh rubber that is underneath the Chilean driver at the moment. He needs to dispatch of him very quickly as he possibly can. You can see the laps of tyre life. De Bruyne there, 14 laps he's been on those medium compound tyres, and they are going to be very worn indeed. Enestrosa needs to try and dispatch of him as soon as he possibly can, maybe into the hairpin bend, but he's just a bit too far away as it stands for now. Not good at all. His best hope will be that the Dutchman goes into the pits at the end of this lap.
This isn't really hurting him right now. Actually, it's helping him. He's getting a little bit of a slipstream, so I think what we'll try and do is pass him down towards T1 here. He does not go into the pit lane, so he's going to have to pass him the old-fashioned way on circuit. And look at the overspeed here you get from the slipstream. Is he close enough? I think he will be. He'll go for a move to the inside here. He must do for his race. He does. De Bruyne doesn't think about defending. I think he just thinks, you know what, there's no point here. I know this guy is quick. I'm going to let him by. But saying that, he comes back at him there, and this is what Enestrosa does not want. He's forced wide onto the grass there. That's going to cost him a lot of time there. And Enestrosa now went from what looked like a dream opportunity for an overtake, and it's now lost time. His tyres are going to be dirty as well, and this is awesome if you're Kylian Drumont, because your main competitor is stuck losing time behind a car that's slower.
The Frenchman is absolutely flying out there as well, a 1:16.5. Actually not the quickest man out on track. That goes to Will Murdoch, who is in second place, also on the same strategy as Kylian Drumont as it stands for now. So this could be, again, playing into the hands of Murdoch, but he's still got 3.7 seconds to make up in terms of the deficit between himself and the Frenchman.
If I was Murdoch, I'd pit now, softs, and just go for it, because you're not going to catch him. You're not going to catch 4 seconds up on mediums. You've got to get out there and make the calls, make the big strategy calls to make it work. But we'll see if he decides to do that or not. So here's going to be a replay of De Buren and Inestrosa. So Inestrosa goes up the inside here. He does sort of overshoot it a bit, which then, of course, opens him up for another move here. And De Buren, I think, just sort of... I say runs him off the circuit a bit there, but I think at that point, Inestrosa's so far behind that he's got to just concede the corner. It's one for the stewards, definitely, but now De Buren has come into the pit lane, but of course the damage is already done to Inestrosa, and when Drumont pits, we'll have to see what sort of lap time he comes up. Inestrosa's last lap was a 17.9, so he lost 1.5 seconds to Drumont there.
So De Bruyne then into the pits, goes on to the soft compound of tyres with 12 laps now remaining then here. Where is he going to emerge? It's behind Anton then, so he's got work to do then. Here is Kylian Drumont, meanwhile, making hay whilst the sun shines. And now Inestrosa, with clear air in front of him, can try and run the race as best as he can. But has he lost too much time squabbling with the Dutchman that we saw just a couple of laps ago? Drumont's going to come into the pit lane at the end of lap 30 then, so this will be his final stop in the race, and it's always going to be onto the soft compound of tyres. Of course you are. There's no other option here for him because he's been running on the mediums throughout the entirety of this one. Karatza also pits and goes onto the soft compound of tyres. Murdoch decides to continue on with what looks to be, presumably, an overcut here.
Well, here we go then. We're going to find out now where Inestrosa is compared to Drumont. And this is going to be huge for the race. Drumont sitting in the pit lane for what will feel like an age as Inestrosa goes by in the pit lane. Let's have a look. Out comes Kylian Drumont. Where is Angel Inestrosa?
He's going to be really close. He's already going to be ahead down to the first turn. Yeah, he's got an advantage over Kylian Drumont. So Angel Inestrosa emerges then effectively in the race lead because the drivers in front haven't made their second stop then in this one. Serrano, Etemezion and Will Murdoch all out of sequence at the moment. But I have to say, Will Murdoch, his pace on those medium tyres looking really, really strong. And I just wonder, between the gap between himself and Kylian Drumont, he might be able to go onto the soft tyres that bit later, have more tyre life left at the end of the race and close that deficit down if those mediums that if those softs that Drumont's on wear out quicker and they fall off the cliff.
I just don't think it's going to work. I think he should have pitted earlier, frankly, and tried to get the undercut and then try and defend it from the end, you know, because it's hard to catch these guys. But now the gap between Inestrosa and Drumont is 2.7 seconds. This is going to be an awesome end to the race, and Drumont has the upper hand here. I think even with the issue that Inestrosa had here with De Buren towards the end of his last stint, I don't think he'll have enough. We're going to see now Kylian Drumont really turn up the wick. He has every opportunity here to win the Olympic Esports Series motorsport event if he can just get those soft tyres in one piece. Will Murdoch in the pit lane as well for his last stop onto the soft compound tyres. How far behind is he going to be on pit exit? There goes Drumont.
So, yeah. There he goes then. And I have to say, Jose Serrano, I'm just looking at his race. He's now in the race lead by 2.8 seconds. He's on the hard tyre. I reckon he's just going to go to the end on the hards. He's made his stop, hasn't he? And his lap times are about 6 or 7 tenths of a second slower than those around him. Actually, in fact, now nearly a full second slower. So he's going to drop back, but he's going to try and defend it as much as he can.
So right now, if you're Angel Inestrosa, you're thinking, right, I need to catch and pass Serrano as quick as possible and hope that he holds up Kylian Drumont. Drumont's got the faster car underneath him right now. He's got the faster tyres bolted onto his Toyota.
Fastest first sector overall in the entire race for Kylian Drumont as well. Really impressive stuff from the Frenchman as we ride on board with him now. Then this gap is just going to come tumbling down. It's about 6 tenths of a second, the difference in lap times between Inestrosa and between Kylian Drumont and the Frenchman. It is playing into his hands absolutely beautifully so far here. Serrano out in front in the lead of this race, but not for very long because the gap is coming down very quickly, as it is between this battle of Inestrosa and Drumont, which is effectively for the race lead.
Yeah, cool, calm and collected, Kylian Drummond. You can see him there on the right-hand side of your screen. You wouldn't know that he's got a massive live audience behind him watching, or there's a set of cameras or lights on him. He looks so comfortable right now, and you get the feeling that maybe in Astroza not feeling the same thing. In fact, that was the fastest lap of the entire race there from Kylian Drummond, a 1:15.1, which would have put him, I think, 8th or 9th on the grid for qualifying. So incredibly fast now as we get into these later stages of the race.
Jose Serrano there now, very much in touching distance here for Enestrosa. Might be a bit of a welcome blessing for the Chilean there, because he'll be within slipstreaming range and can just cruise on by him, because we know that that's hard tyre. Is not going to have the grip under braking in mid-corner and on the exit of the turn. So it will be a relatively short battle between those two drivers. But Kylian Drummond closing up in the background then here as the race goes in towards the business end of it. There is Serrano, there is Enestrosa, and crucially there is Kylian Drummond. Hard, medium and soft tyres for your top three. Drummond doing the business as it stands for now, setting fastest sector after fastest sector. This is the Kylian that we know and we love, because he is able to think so well, think on his feet, adapt his strategy, and he is driving so perfectly out there on track. Metronomic precision here.
Another fastest lap as well, 15.0 this time for Drummond. Now, Enestrosa, as you can see, looking back from Serrano, is going to have to find a way by quickly. If he gets caught behind in this middle sector, it's pretty much over, because it's going to be susceptible to the overtake on the last half of the course. So you can see the difference there in the tyre life, how much quicker Enestrosa is, and now he's probably thinking, come on, get out of the way. I've got Drummond right behind me, and he is fast. So he's looking for any opportunity, but he can't get by. Serrano does not have to get out of the way. It doesn't matter if he's on a slower tyre or not. He is his obligation is just to stay where he is and stay on the racing line. But you can see now the gap has come right down to him. It's right on the back of Enestrosa now, as he's had to wait behind Serrano coming onto the straight. This might be it for Enestrosa.
Oh, yeah, you're completely right. It could be a potential opportunity to attack here for Kylian Drummond as well, through the tunnel into the daylight, and then we head towards the braking zone of the hairpin. We're on board here with Kylian Drummond. Enestrosa in front is going to attack against Serrano. What is Drummond going to be able to do? Well, he's got a good watching picture of it. He's going to go up the inside of the Spaniard as well, try and pick his pocket as Enestrosa goes through into the race lead. Serrano is dispatched, and now his next target is going to be Kylian Drummond, who is right up on his rear wing as they go through the left-handed kink and come across the timing line. It's going to be Drummond on the attack then, with the advantage in pace and speed. He's got the hole being pushed in the air in front of him as Serrano here. Could Drummond go two for the price of one? He can! It's going to be an overtake for the race lead. Here comes Drummond to the inside, and the Frenchman leads at the start of lap 35. Serrano into second place, ahead now of Angel Enestrosa as well. What drama here! What brilliant precision and driving and strategy calling from Kylian Drummond, and now it's all about if he can retain that advantage to the checkered flag.
We're going to have to see if there was contact there. Unfortunately, our camera director decided that the blank main straight was more interesting than the battle we were watching, so we didn't see actually overtake itself. So I'm wondering if there was a bit of contact, because Enestrosa was very slow out of the first corner, and now he's stuck back behind Jose Serrano, which is a nightmare for the Chilean driver. And Kylian Drummond, for him, this is a blessing. He's now got free space ahead of him, a car that's very quick, and he'll be able just to put into that gap now. And there you go, under investigation, Drummond and Enestrosa. This could still change the race.
Enestrosa up through into second place then, so nicely done for him ahead of Jose Serrano. Side by side they were very briefly, and now Serrano is the man who is just trying to attack. Let's have another look and see if we can piece together what happened. So down the start finish straight we are. It's Enestrosa in the lead. Look at Kylian Drummond, jigs to the inside of the Spaniard, and then in turn with Enestrosa here as well. There's a bit of hip and shoulder between them on the entry of the corner, wasn't there? Yeah. And he goes through into the race lead. As a result, Serrano then up into second as Enestrosa demoted down to third.
I'd say that's a fairly clear hit from me. I mean, Enestrosa maybe did move across a bit there, but something I noticed, I don't know if you did, Tom, that Enestrosa just didn't really know where to go. He was sat in the middle of the circuit. He didn't really defend it, but also he didn't really open the door either. So Drummond, I think, went for the pass. There was that contact there, and now we're going to see really if the stewards think that was fair or not. And it depends really when they make a decision. If they make it soon, we might see Enestrosa get back by. If we don't, then this is going to have ramifications for the end of the race here.
Let's have another look and see if we can piece together what happened. Talk us through this one here, Jimmy.
So we're on board with Drummond. We're up the inside of Serrano. We know that move's there. Go up the inside on... Yeah, there's just contact. He hits the back of him.
But the gap's there. He's half a way along the inside. I mean, you could argue it's 6 in one, half a dozen of the other, couldn't you?
Gap's there, but you hit him. You can't hit someone. And that result caused him to gain the position. So I don't know. We'll see what the stewards say. But you know, there is, as you say, an argument that he was on the inside, but Inestrosa can't disappear. He can't just vanish.
But he could have. But there was also a little bit of room on the outside. You could argue that he could have opened the steering a little bit, perhaps allowed a little bit more room through there. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the stewards here. Meanwhile, Kylian Drumont is the man who leads the race. The thing is, if there is a penalty awarded, it'll be a time penalty, and it will have to come before the end of this race. And the thing is, what's his gap now? Nearly 3 seconds over Angel Inestrosa. So it's going to be. Oh, it's going to be tight, isn't it, if that is awarded? And we haven't seen, I don't think I've seen a graphic. I know we've been looking at a lot of other things.
It's been investigated.
It's been investigated.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So it is being investigated between these drivers. So, right, there we are then. No further action. So they deem it as a racing incident as well. So
they've got more cameras than we have up here in the commentary booth. So we always go with what the stewards say there. But that does mean that Drumont is pretty much home free now. All he's got to do is bring his car to the end, and he will be, of course, the winner of the motorsport event here at the Olympic Esports Series. But he's still got 5 laps to go. Now the big question is that can Will Murdoch make his way up into second place here? He is quicker than Inestrosa in front by a fair chunk, about 8/10 of a lap. A second a lap, sorry, but that's not quite enough to catch the Chilean driver in front. So the British driver here is really going to have to get the hammer down if he wants P2.
It could be on for a podium finish, though, in the Olympic Esports Series, which wouldn't be anything to sniff your nose up at, but you'd far rather get second than the third, wouldn't you, if you were given the opportunity to pick between the two. Meanwhile, Jose Serrano, I have to say, I would have written him off at the start of this one, but actually that hard tyre strategy later on has proven to be quite beneficial for him. He has made a slight mistake here by the looks of things, though. Will Murdoch right all over his rear wing, going through this first sector. Slight slide on the exit, and the door opens for Murdoch, and he goes through with ease.
See how slow Serrano was there. He just the car has nothing left. The hard tyres are so slow around here that he does need to make. No, he doesn't need to make one more stop. Sorry, apologies. He's final that tyre for now. Everyone's gone for the 2-stop strategy, and Carrazza, who had the fast lap, actually had the fast lap taken away from him by Eddie Messi. And contact with Serrano. That is a penalty. I can tell you that right now. That is the Carrazza that we know. Didn't want to wait up Jose Serrano. Gave him a little nudge to get out of the way. Which
Did you see the right smile on his face there as well?
Oopsie. But that will open the door up for the cars behind. But yeah, you can't pass people like that, even if you are faster.
It's now allowed him to be overtaken by Hengse and Giorgio Mangino there as well. So that contact has had very severe repercussions for the Spaniard. We're right on board here with Hengse then. He's having a pretty good run actually so far with him. There is the incident under investigation between Serrano and Carrazza for colliding with another car. And we'll see what the stewards do deem that. So 3.5 laps now remaining as we come to start lap 39 then here. It's Kylian Drumont, your race leader, who's out in front, but this is the battle for P5. A top 5 finish in an Olympic Esports Series motorsport event would be absolutely nothing to sniff your nose up at. And can Mangino try and attack on Hengse then down towards the first corner? He dives to the inside. The opportunity is kind of half there as Hengse then runs in a little bit deep on the corner but squares off the exit, gets a better drive out of there and holds firm into P5 for now.
Yeah, those tyres for Hengse are going to start falling away. Unsurprisingly, a 2-second penalty awarded to Adriano Carrazza for the attack, I think is the word, on Jose Serrano. And then Hengse there, the rear tyres getting away from him, loses the car on exit. Mangino goes through and still trying to collect the car, just about manages to save it, but does lose the place to Giorgio Mangino, who you have to say will probably be promoted now up into 4th place once Carrazza serves his penalty. So it's all coming towards Giorgio Mangino. Unfortunately, a bit too late in the race, but I think Hengse there gambled onto those soft tyres a bit too early and now can't keep it. So here is the replay between Carrazza and Serrano. Biff. Yep.
Straight to the scene of the accident there for Jose Serrano. Nothing he could do, and not his fault certainly at all. So that 2-second penalty there for Adriano Carrazza. Where's that going to drop him down to? Into the clutches of Mangino, Hengse, etc. So it should kind of half pay off for him there then, for him, kind of what we're expecting.
Murdoch, 1.6 seconds now behind Inestrosa. He's going to catch him before the end of the race.
That's what I said earlier. I did say about it going on to the soft tyres.
Incredibly rare Tom Brooks' correct prediction.
I'm taking it and I'm running with it. Could we see a Brit getting into P2 here in the Olympic Esports Series? Will Murdoch then, 1.1 seconds to the good of Angel Inestrosa. The Chilean has tried as hard as he can, but that medium tyre that he's on is not offering the pace that he needs. What's this then that we can see here between 3 drivers going 3 wide? Serrano then on the inside there. Etemezion versus Hengse for P6 here. Up the inside for the Lebanese driver. Hengse there trying to retaliate on the exit, but no grip underneath him.
As a character from a soap opera once said, he's got nothing left. There's nothing left there for Hensei. There's literally no grip. He's just going to fall back down the order now. But here it is. Here is the battle we've been talking about. Will Murdoch is closing in on Angel Inostroza. Will has got his dad here today cheering him along in the audience, I'm sure. Made the long journey all the way out to Singapore with Will, and this will mean a lot to them. Of course, the win out of clutch now, I think. But see on the braking just how much more performance Will has on those soft tyres.
Well, he's used to designing railway sleepers in CAD drawings, and it's been a bit of a sleeper of a race, but now it is coming right alive for Will Murdoch here as we come on to start the penultimate lap as he comes across the timing line in the wheel tracks here of Angel Inostroza. The Chilean defends to the inside then. Will Murdoch's going to have to do this the long way around the outside into the first corner. Inostroza there holds firm on the inside. Will Murdoch then pushed to the outside and almost off onto the grass. Bit of contact between the two. Murdoch is up into second place.
There you go. Great move there from Will Murdoch. I think Inostroza was a bit cheeky there on exit, trying to squeeze him to the exit, but Murdoch there up into P2 and on to the second step on the podium. And Inostroza there, I'm sure, absolutely gutted that he's not able to make this strategy work, down to P3 at the moment. Luckily for him, Carrazza's a little way behind. I don't think he's going to be a threat towards the end of the race, but we're only a lap and a half away from the end here of the motorsport event here live at Singapore from the Olympic Esports Series, and only a lap and a half to go for Kylian Drumont.
Let's have another look here, Jimmy. Talk us through.
Yeah, so Murdoch goes to the outside there, uses the grip of the soft tyre, runs it all the way, uses the downforce too, has the grip there. I think Inostroza I don't think there was contact, I think he just tried to nail the throttle and had no grip, and that was it.
I have to say, though, the pace difference between Drumont and Murdoch. Murdoch's the quickest man on track by about 7/10 of a second or so. If this race was going on for a few more laps, he could be in contention for the victory. But if buts and maybes are not going to end the story, it is going to be, though, Kylian Drumont, who starts the final lap of the Olympic Esports Series race in the lead. And what a superlative drive it has been from the Frenchman so far. He has not put a wheel wrong at all from lights until this point.
Yeah, less than half a lap to go now for Kylian Drumont to making history here in Singapore to be the winner of the Olympic Esports event, the motorsport event here. The pressure must be huge, but he can pretty much just drive to the line now in his own time and still come away the winner. It's not been all plain sailing for the Frenchman up until this point, but this will feel like redemption for him, I think. A difficult qualifying and now coming to the end of a lap.
Well, we were asking questions at the start of this one as to who was going to be able to take the checkered flag first, who would call the strategy right, who would not be able to crack under pressure, and what a drive it has been from the young Frenchman. King Kylian comes out of the final corner then, here at Singapore on the Deep Forest Raceway. Through into the checkered flag he goes, and it's Kylian Drumont who wins the Olympic Esports Series motorsport event in 2023. What a drive from the Frenchman. Will Murdoch comes home in second place. What a great performance from the Briton, and Angel Inostroza, third place for him on the podium as well. What a fantastic Olympic Esports Series event. What a great drive from Kylian Drumont to get himself on to the top step of the podium.
You could just see him there, the live audience there, gets up, takes a round of applause that's deserved there for Kylian Drumont. An awesome moment there for the French driver, and you can see how much it means to him coming across the start-finish line. Just sort of kept it inside till he knew he had it, and then allows himself a moment of celebration. An awesome result there, and well-deserved for Kylian Drumont.
Amazing performance from him. Call that strategy to absolute perfection over the course of that one. And let's be completely honest as well. He was on the back foot with the problems he had setting his qualifying lap, having to get himself back into focus, starting on the front row of the grid, not having the upper hand with pole position, and he had the hard work to do, and he called it absolutely beautifully.
Yeah, you can see, or we can see, Will Murdoch down there looking absolutely distraught with P2. He gives a thumbs up, though, to Kylian Drumont. Great to see that sportsmanship there between competitors. Angel Inostroza as well, looking frustrated as well.
Final results then. Drumont, Murdoch, Inostroza is your top three, ahead of Adriano Carrazza, Giorgio Mangano, and then Carl Etemesian ahead of Yusuke Goto and Ben Hensei. Then it is Jose Serrano, Kevin De Bruyne, and then we have Al-Mohamed Alif, the Singapore driver, on home soil, finishing P11 ahead of the Philippines, Inigo Anton. Fantastic performance, though, from all of our players here in Singapore. Superb, though, especially from this man, Kylian Drumont. He is absolutely riding the crest of a wave at the moment. I just hope he's going to be able to enjoy it as much as he can.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think right now, I think he's at a bit of a loss of what to do. He feels a little bit overwhelmed by that, as you would be, of course, here on the stage. Amazing to have a live audience here as well. I think to give our drivers the applause they deserve. And I think Killian there just getting ready to speak to our very own Julia.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be heading down to Julia and Killian in just a couple of moments' time and finding out the thoughts of the Olympic Esports Series winner for the motorsport event in 2023.
There she is. Hello, Julia.
Down to you, Jules.
Wow, wow, wow. I mean, after the qualifier, I mean, come on. After the qualifier and you got yourself back there, that was... Talk us through what happened. Because obviously Engel looked really strong all the way through, and then you just... Sneaky, little Serrano help.
Yeah, you can repeat, please.
Oh, sorry. What was your strategy? So, like, obviously, Engel was looking very strong all the way through, and then just at that later part of the race, you...
Yeah, I see on the practice the soft on the first stint is useless. The soft is tire wear is so much. So I say, I see in Ostroza start on soft. I say, oh. It's perfect for me because he won off and me without dodge shears. Yeah. So I start on mediums, two stints on mediums, and I know for the last stint the soft was the best. So I push so much on the soft tires. Yeah.
When you make your strategy decision, and obviously you don't know what everyone else is doing, do you sometimes think, is this right? Sometimes, like in the middle of the race, like you have doubt?
Yeah. I see Rose did a one-stop strategy. I'm thinking during the race, maybe it's good for him. We'll see. And after my last pit, I see he's not really off of me. So I see, I think I did a good strategy for the race.
Well, you won, so it was a good strategy. And how do you feel now? Good adrenaline? Your hands are...
Yeah, a little bit. So it's okay. Now it's finished, so yeah.
We're going to go back to you, Tom and Jimmy, just for a sec.
Yeah, cheers, Jules. Wow, what an absolutely superb performance here from all of our players. And, I mean, pick the bones out of that one, JB.
Thanks. I'll try to. No, but it's... I think for...
Yeah, sorry, Jimmy, I'm going to have to cut in front of you because we're going to get ready then to get the trophy presentation underway for the top 3 finishers in the Olympic Esports Series motorsport event here in Singapore.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just witnessed an amazing finals of the motorsport category. Let's give a big round of applause for all of our players and invite them back on stage. We'd also like to invite IOC member Mrs. Koning Patama Liswatrakul on stage to present the trophies. In 3rd place, Angel Inostroza. Congratulations, Angel Inostroza. And in 2nd place, we have William Murdoch. Congratulations, William Murdoch. Ladies and gentlemen, your winner for the Olympics Esports Series motorsport category, Killian Drummond! We will now have Killian Drummond to lift the winner's trophy in 3, 2, 1.
Kylian Drummond is the winner of the 2023 Olympic Esport Motorsport Series event. Absolutely amazing performance from all of our top 3 finishers.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cookie.
Well, the top 3 finishers then on the podium, celebrating, holding their trophies. All of the pressure, all of the hours of practice and dedication that have gone into this. It all came down to it, and when the pressure was on, these 3 delivered. Angel Enestrosa in 3rd, Will Murdoch in 2nd, Kylian Drummond being crowned as the winner of the Olympic Esports Series Motorsports event in 2023.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming up at stage 2.
Well, let's throw down to Ed on the stage.
Wow, what an amazing event that was. The live studio audience here in Singapore enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it too, wherever you're watching around the world. And my name is Ed Russell. Thank you so much to Julia, to Tom, and everyone up there in the caster's desk, to Jimmy as well. It is the final day of proceedings here at the Olympic Esports Series 2023. Still plenty to come though, including baseball and taekwondo, and the closing ceremony as well. But for now, it is time to get into some street fighting action. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day here in Singapore. Bye for now.
Great to have you with us at the first ever Olympic Esports Week. We're coming to you live from Singapore at the Suntec Convention Centre Arena. It's day 3 here, and it's been a thrilling day of esports so far. We kicked off with the duathlon and motorsports, and now we're building up to one of the biggest